Hello and welcome to Scream Review. I'm Justin,
I'm Nick.
and today we're going to be covering the not so latest episode, as we're still quite behind, of Scream the TV series. This is episode 8, I believe.
Actually, 7.
7, my bad.
Episode 7, Let the Right One In.
Yes, another horror movie title. They're really pushing these horror movie references.
I think it's becoming a trend.
Just not even the titles, just like last episode when Noah was like being like a Frankenstein lynch mob. Couldn't you have just said lynch mob? Did you have to add Frankenstein?
There are a lot of like forced horror movie references.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
I'm fine with them having the titles as
that's cool,
the episodes,
but
like,
they're really pushing it overall.
Well, I wish they just make them like connect to the movies more.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Make them sort of homages. Anyway, yeah. All right, so we open up with some lovely, beautiful, painful music, and we see creepy cousin in a house that is not his, and he's got some sunglasses on and he's spying on a couple who are in bed sleeping. He makes some toast using their toaster and leaves.
Yeah, he calls it Goldilocksing.
We'll get to that a little later on in the episode.
It's really weird.
Yeah. So next we see the cops coming to Emma about her laptop, as the cliffhanger ended in the last episode, about the emails that her dad got from, quote, Riley. And so Emma's like, I don't know what's going on. And her mom's like, no, and the cops are like, do you have anything else to tell us? And Emma's mom is like, what about the barn? And Emma's like, Mom! With her eyes. She says it with her eyes. And the cops are like, Emma, you gotta tell us this stuff. If some creep is threatening you, you gotta keep in touch. And Emma's like,
she's being really difficult.
Just unnecessarily difficult.
Yeah, she keeps doing these things where she's like, oh, I'm just afraid of telling people about it. And it's like, not telling people about going somewhere alone is always worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so then we turn to Noah and Audrey, who are in Noah's room talking about what stuff they disclosed last night. Mostly Audrey's involvement with bringing Piper to Lakewood. And Audrey seems to be a little frightened of what Emma will think. She's very scared of Emma thinking that she ruined her life or whatever.
Yeah, and he still has that recording of her confessing that she brought Piper to Lakewood.
So they go to the coffee shop, and there they run into Zoe. And Zoe sort of initiates a study session with Noah.
Yeah,
and
which is weird because she turned him down a couple episodes before because he's apparently in love with Audrey.
Well, she thinks he is, and you can tell also she still thinks that by the way she greeted Audrey.
Yeah, and by the way Audrey greeted her. So not sure what's going on there.
All right, so then we also see that Emma is also angry at Kieran again for talking to the cops. Why didn't you tell me before you went to the cops?
Oh, that's the point of snitching.
Maybe it's because you're a very irresponsible person who can't be trusted to go to the cops on your own.
Yeah.
Also, we see Brooke afterwards talking to Audrey about what happened to Branson. About how she kidnapped him and threatened to castrate him and left him in a hotel room, handcuffed to the bed. Yeah,
so Brooke basically enlists Audrey's help in trying to free him from his, precarious position. However, when they get to the hotel room, he's gone. It's neat, which is very strange because he just got his hand chopped off in the last episode.
But there's not evidence, or there is evidence of him being there.
Yes. However, it's shown that there's like cameras all around the room that's live streaming.
They're being filmed.
So, yeah, but it said like live streaming on the camera, right. So that was kind of weird. I don't know how that's going to play into things.
Meanwhile, the sheriff, along with the enlisted help of our favorite police officer, investigate
side character.
Side character. Yes. They investigate the barn that Branson's brother used to. Not Branson. I'm sorry.
Brandon James' brother.
Brandon James, his brother, used to own, and the sheriff actually ends up finding a photograph of what ends up being Emma and her father, but with her father's face etched out.
Which kind of makes me think that maybe he's been killed because we haven't seen him in a couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be
sort
kind of like
Sydney's father.
Yeah, Sydney's father kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, okay. So we get a little bit of backstory on Kieran when a creepy cousin starts to talk to Emma about him. Emma's like, "Gosh, my boyfriend's being so difficult," and creepy cousin's like, his parents died in a car crash. His mom and his stepdad, and then he begins to start hitting on Emma while Kieran watches.
Yeah.
And eventually we jump to the psych teacher who's apparently got files on the Lakewood Six, and she gets a ghost face call and actually ends up running into the man himself and runs away from him, stumbling into the, I want to say corpse, but still living body of Seth Branson. And Ghostface assaults her, stabs Branson in the gut, and throws her off a cliff, or not a cliff, but stairwell. Yeah. And the janitor runs in and chases off Ghostface before he can finish his job.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied that Ghostface sent Brooke and Audrey a text as Branson to try to lure them there, to try to maybe implicate them in something, or
frame them, or whatever,
or just make them watch. I don't know.
Yeah. And all the meanwhile, Noah's on a date with Zoe, and and so he takes her home, and then they start doing the sexy times, and then suddenly Audrey runs in and is like, "Noah, we gotta talk." And yes, so just before this happens, mind you, Zoe, while Noah's out of the room, finds the file of Audrey's confession and emails it to someone. We don't know who, but she emails it to someone.
Maybe it's just emailing it to herself. That's kind of what I think it is, but I don't know.
Also, creepy cousin goes on a date with Emma. They break into an abandoned house, and that has the dead bodies of Branson and Eddie Kruger.
Well, Branson's not quite dead yet.
But has his body and Eddie Kruger's dead body in a bathtub, and Ghostface burns down the house while they're all still in it. Emma and creepy cousin escape. However, Branson does not, and of course, Eddie is dead.
Yeah. And of course, the creepy cousin also kind of made some moves towards Emma, which is...
He kissed her.
Interesting, yeah. So anyway, I guess it was a pretty eventful episode. Just from Noah getting a more developed relationship with Zoe. The teacher being assaulted was a pretty big thing, actually.
Yeah,
because my money was on the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Because she kind of had that Piper thing going on where she wasn't really in the show, but she was in it enough and involved. And I was like, oh, maybe she is kind of like the new Piper.
Right. I just never saw motive, though.
Yeah, so. Well, she, I don't know, she always seemed like a little bit too interested in the Lakewood Six.
That's true. She was like, she had files on them.
Yeah, she had files on them. She kept calling her students, which is like kind of inappropriate for just a random teacher to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I've had teachers as coaches who've called me just in terms of like, oh yeah, you need to be at this place at this time. Scheduling. But like,
never prying into your personal affairs.
Yeah, and she's the psych teacher, not a counselor, which is also kind of weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that kind of shakes things up because now, I guess she's sort of not suspected anymore. Mm-hmm. However, when we were watching it, I did point out that it is kind of similar to how they handled Piper, because there was that episode where Piper got hit over the head. And of course, that turned out to be Audrey.
True.
I guess so. And so that was kind of like a diversion that the showrunners used to be like, oh, see, Piper's not the killer. She was attacked without her knowledge. So.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the psych teacher, when she got the Ghostface call, she's like, "May I ask who this is, please?"
Yeah, so that's
she was alone, so she didn't have to prove anything to anyone.
I mean, maybe she was just being an accomplice to a person, but not really knowing about the whole
Maybe,
Ghostface
but
conversation.
it's kind of a stretch at this point.
Yeah. I mean, unlike the Scream movies where everyone knows about the Ghostface calls and the Ghostface voice because of the voice changer, now it's like a thing only the Lakewood Six know about, really,
Right.
as about the calls and the voice. So I don't know. Anything's kind of possible with this show, just because I don't know. I'm a big fan of murder mysteries and diversions and stuff like that, but sometimes the show kind of does border on ridiculous, and sometimes I feel like it's almost doing the Lost thing, where
Yeah.
it's like they have a very rough outline of what they want to do, but then they kind of get lost in it, and they need to do damage control to try to
They kind of stretch out their ideas over long periods and all that.
And then you find out, oh, they really don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Although I have more faith in this season than last season.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise I thought it was a fairly
just average
yeah
episode for the TV series.
I thought the creepy cousin did a pretty good job.
Being the creepy cousin?
Yeah, being the creepy cousin, but also kind of like doing that kind of fake nice thing.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting way to go about it, because we know just from his interactions with Kieran and his mom that he's like really
he's a
creepy
scumbag
guy. But like, and breaking into houses and stuff. But he's so, charming, quotation marks, charming around Emma.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's I don't really know what they're going for with him. He did kind of have this weird thing where he's like, I like to pretend to be other people.
Yeah.
Which is that his Goldilocks thing where he breaks in other people's houses.
Mm-hmm.
So
sort of weird.
Yeah. Well, okay. Who do you think is the killer?
Who do I think is the killer?
Yeah. At this point in the show, who do you think it is?
G. Willikers, Mister. I'm not sure.
Because
I still think the mom is a possibility. She's in the show a lot less though, so I don't know.
She's always in like at either the very beginning or the very end.
And then I like your theory about Emma too.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about this in the last episode. We kind of skipped over our thing where we talk about who we think the killer is at the end of each episode. But so my theory is that maybe one of two things: either Emma is the killer, and just her PTSD is, giving her selective memories, or giving her hallucinations, so that whenever we see her on screen with the killer,
it's a projection.
Yeah, it's just a projection. She thinks she sees the killer, and then of course everyone questions her and says, "Where's the killer?" Oh, and then they just think she's imagining it, truthfully, and then with her, then she actually acts out the Ghostface killer persona, and it's it is kind of a sound reasoning, because also the advertising for the show, like if you look at the poster for season 2, it's Emma screaming, and like it shows under her face is the Ghostface mask.
They also did that for Audrey too, though.
Yeah, but it's like the main thing is for Emma.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what they're trying to do. My second theory in terms of that is that someone is trying to make it look like Emma is doing this, where she's having PTSD and she's killing people to kind of cope with it. And I think that's kind of what they're going for, because if they did that little device with, she's been sending emails to her father under a dead girl's account from her own computer, like someone's trying to set her up or something. So that's kind of my theory right now that's running, but to who's setting her up, I'm not sure. I think Stavo's a little bit too obvious.
You set me up!
Yeah. Was that Harrison Ford?
Someone. A lot of people have said that.
Yeah. I was thinking like a Fugitive reference. I don't know. Like, Stavo's too obvious. Zoe isn't in the show enough.
Yep.
But she did make a reference in this show that she was out of town in counseling.
Yeah, she's very vague about where she was for the first season.
Yeah. So maybe that was just like a dumb device by the writers to be like, oh, that's where she was.
Now we can introduce her.
Because it would have been very easy to say, oh, I'm Zoe. I just moved here. Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
so,
Instead of I've been here the whole time, just
yeah.
not back then.
Well, maybe they're trying to make it so that it would be believable that she comes so easily into their friend group because
Eh,
they sort of know each other. I don't know.
whatever. Anyway,
I guess
so that's
pretty much
pretty
my
much it.
thoughts. Yeah.
What would you rate the movie or episode?
Show same as last time. I'd say a 5 or a 6.
I'd say probably a 5.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a little bit more action in this one just because of the Ghostface chase.
yeah,
scene.
the Ghostface chase scene really made up for the rest of the episode.
And there were some moments where they did kind of call out some dumb horror cliches, like Audrey pointed out that Brooke was wearing heels.
Yep.
Which I
Yeah.
thought was pretty smart. So yeah, I'd say a 5 or 6. I mean,
I'd probably lean more towards a 5.
okay.
But yeah. As always, if you like what you heard, remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Any feedback is always appreciated and any support. So, yeah, we'll see all you boys and ghouls in the next episode. See ya.